Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast today. We are so grateful to have you here with us at the start of the new year. And today we're going to be jumping into a topic that is on the top of most people's New Year's resolution lists, at least based in my circle of people. It always seems like everyone wants to start getting organized and be better with planning for the new year. So
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about today, planning and organizing. Great skills to have for students, but I think this is also going to apply to any parents or anybody else that is going to be listening, because these are just excellent skills to have and things to think about when you're looking at making some changes this year and trying to get more organized with just life and school and all the things.
All the
So
yeah.
welcome.
And yeah, we're totally being those cliche people that are like capitalizing on the New Year's resolutions, right? But, most of you hopefully have probably already set resolutions since we're into the new year already. But if you haven't and you're thinking, where can I get started? Something simple that can really affect all areas of your life, whether you're looking for more time, energy, just whatever your goals are. Planning and organizing can help you get there and just create a little less stress in your life. So,
Mhm.
students, for you, it might be, hey, I'm going to start with the right study space, right? I'm going to make sure that where I'm studying is a place conducive to learning. So, if that's finding a place in your home that's clean, clutter free, that will help you keep your mind clear and organized, right? If you're studying in your bed or where there's a bunch of clutter, like it's not going to be as effective, right? I know that when I'm trying to focus on something, if I see clutter all around me, I get distracted. My mind is going, oh, I need to clean that up. And oh, I need to do this. And oh, there's dishes. And oh, there's laundry. Your mind goes all over the place. So if you can find a space that's dedicated to study, you're going to be more effective. And then science and studies have also shown that if you're, studying in your bed or you're reading in your bed, you're having technology in your bed, your brain picks up on that and then you have a harder time sleeping later. So that's also important to kind of separate those two so that you're also making sure you're taking care of your health, that you're getting enough sleep, because without enough sleep, being planned and organized and trying to study is not going to be as effective if you're
Mhm.
sleep deprived. So
I think
that's
it also has to do with your state of mind
mhm.
too.
Yeah.
Going into a place, like you're getting into a different mind frame when you're going to a place that's dedicated to work or dedicated to school.
Mhm.
So just keeping a little bit of that separation, because otherwise when you're in your other areas of your home, like the kitchen, or maybe like some people have a separate area in their kitchen, but like living room, like the places you go to relax, your bedroom, you're also kind of associating that with work now, if that's where you also do your work. So having having that separation where you can have a place to just go and be and just relax and enjoy yourself, where you don't have to think about work and school, and then having that separate area that is just dedicated to that is so helpful. Otherwise, the lines just start getting really blurred. And um yeah, at least for me, working from home has its share of challenges. As great and as flexible and nice as it is, it's tricky to keep things separated
Separate.
enough to keep me sane, I guess is a way of saying
Yeah.
it, is because I don't want to be in my living room and watching TV and have my laptop there and be like, oh shoot, I got to answer these emails. Like I want my home to feel like a home too, not like just a continuous office space, if that makes
Well,
sense.
yeah, and that's kind of the same importance for students. That's why having a dedicated, okay, this is school time, and then this is where I can have fun time. It also kind of, it's just that mental shift, the subtle shift of energy for you to, and that's why I say, you don't want to necessarily be studying in your bedroom, because that should be the time where you can unwind and, not have to worry
Mhm.
about, oh, I've got to do school and now I'm stressed and, not able to relax. And again, then I'm losing sleep because I'm stressing about it. So having
Exactly.
that designated space and, you know, finding what works for you. If you're the type that can learn while you're having, you know, light classical music playing in the background, or, you know, your favorite kind of music and it doesn't distract you, then that's also something that can kind of help you as you're, you know, planning and organizing. Is just like, all right, I'm in the zone, I can focus, and then I can, you know, declutter and get organized.
Totally. And then something to note is keeping your digital workspace just as clean as the physical
Yeah.
workspace.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever seen somebody that has their entire computer desktop just filled with documents, like
Yeah.
unorganized, just like documents. Like that's stressful. Like when my desktop on my computer starts getting out of control, that causes me so much anxiety, and it's hard to stay focused and stay organized when things are just thrown onto my computer desktop, just like my physical office desktop, right? So finding a really good folder management system to keep your homework organized or your work files so you can easily retrieve them when you need to. Bookmark sites that you use often on your computer so they're easy to find, like your school logins, stuff that you use for work. Bookmark it, keep it organized, make sure it's easy to find when you need to find it, and not just all thrown into one spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, and for me, that includes like my inbox. I like to keep my inbox at like 0 because then I know like things are done. There's nothing pending. I mean, my husband has like 43,000 unanswered emails in his inbox, and I'm like, I don't even know how you function. You know, half of them are probably the junk spam ads, but I'm like, man, just clean it up. Like, how can you function? You know, and again,
totally.
you define your own kind of chaos and what you're okay with, right? If that doesn't stress you out, then that's fine. Focus on something that does stress you out and get planned and organized there. And I think that's kind of what we're saying is, so if you do have something that you're like, okay, this really drives me crazy, I know I need to organize this, then make a plan and stick to it. You know, set your goals, set a specific goal. Hey, this part of my house drives me crazy, I need to clean it up. And then write it down so that you're looking at it often. Whether that's, you know, hey, I have this corner on my counter in the kitchen that just kind of becomes the catch-all of stuff, right? And if you just put a sticky note up that's like, hey, put away one thing every time you walk by, boom, like you're seeing it, it's that reminder, and then you're able to stick to that goal. And then slowly you're going to get to a spot where it just kind of becomes habit, right? You'll either not put it there, or you'll, you know, put it back where it goes, or you'll start, every time I walk by, I'm going to put something away, right? And then you're kind of decluttering as you go, keeping your house and your space kind of organized. And that's, you know, that's kind of what we're getting at here, is that if you don't function in chaos and mess, then cleaning it up, you know, and that's obviously talking about a physical space, but there might be those mental messes as well. So if there's something mentally that you're like, hey, I need to figure out a better way to de-stress or unwind or whatever it might be, then find those goals as well, stick to it. And, you know, they say writing down a goal helps you achieve it faster. So write it down, put it on a sticky note, put it where you're going to see it, your bathroom mirror, your computer screen, your light switch, wherever you go often, so that you're kind of seeing that physical reminder of, hey, this is my goal and this is what I'm working toward.
So I don't know if you've ever heard of David Allen. He's the author of I think it's Getting Things Done is the name of the book. Getting Stuff Done, Getting Things Done. I think it's GTD.
Yeah.
And so one of his big things is writing it down, because the reason why we dwell on things that have to get done is because our brain is like subconsciously kind of trying to remind us, and it's just in there floating around, and we're afraid that it's going to get lost somewhere and we'll forget to do it or whatever if we don't keep thinking of it. But when you have so many different things that you're supposed to be doing or that you need to get done, it's such a waste of energy to constantly be dwelling on things like, oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do this. So his idea is write it down, basically like what you just said, Angeli, is write it down in a place that you'll be able to see often, and you don't have to dwell on it anymore. Like
Yeah.
look at it on a weekly basis, like have your full list of things that are just in your head that you need to get out. Keep looking at it. Oh, yeah, that's right, I do have to do this. But if you have a very consistent place that you can track these things, and you know that it's always going to be there, it's
Mhm.
almost like your brain relaxes a little, and it's like, okay, I don't have to keep dwelling on that, because I know it's in a safe spot written down, that I don't
Yeah.
have to use the mental, energy to keep thinking about it.
Yeah.
So write it down, even if it's not something that you want to get to right away, but get it out of your head. Like what you said, like the inbox zero thing is like a big thing. Like people say inbox zero, like it maybe some people function well with having 6,000 unread emails, but I would take a wild guess that that would stress out most people, even if they don't want to admit it. Like they might just be like, oh no, that's fine. Like I don't mind it. But getting the stuff out of your inbox and categorizing it, writing it down somewhere else so that the inbox isn't that like catch all of things to do, because then you're going to go to that inbox and be stressed out because it's not organized. It's just in there in an email. It's like, this is something I'm learning on and working on. I'm the first to admit, like, I have so much to learn, but it's helped me to try to get my inbox down to as close to zero as I can by the end of the day, and separate out the things I have to do somewhere else, like on my list
Mhm.
somewhere else, so that it's like, okay, I won't forget about it. I know it's there. Like we use Monday for our
Yeah.
planning,
Yeah. Project
digital
management.
tool, and we'll go more into digital tools. But anyway, the whole point is it actually does help to write stuff down
Yeah.
and reference it often.
Yeah.
Use less
Well,
brain power to track that stuff.
yeah, and especially if you're the type that kind of has a racing mind that focuses on all the to-dos. And, I know for me, I'm so tired by the end of the day, and then I go to sleep, and then it's like that's when my brain decides to wake up and say, "Oh, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And you also need to do this, and you also need to do this." And so having even just a notebook by your bedstand so that you can just take those 5 minutes before you fall asleep to just write it all out, like, okay, 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 I'm writing this down, I'm getting it
Mhm.
out. And then you can kind of just let it go for the night to at least, sleep well. And I like this concept of like brain dumping, right? I've
Mhm.
heard it a lot over the years from various business women coaches that I've interacted with. And basically, the concept is whatever is on your mind, just set a timer for 5 minutes and just write. Like, don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about any of it. Just whatever is coming to your head, writing it out. And it could be, hey, the sky is blue. I need to pick up my shoes. Like, whatever, they could be totally unrelated, but whatever is popping into your head, just getting it out on paper, because then it kind of gives you that mental release, like we're talking about, to just say, okay, I got it all out on paper. Now let's look at my calendar and plan it out. Like what has to be done this week, what can be pushed off, it helps you identify those priorities as well, so that you can
Mhm.
kind of start to organize the chaotic thoughts and organize all the things that are going on. Because I feel like our society is such a go, 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 go all the time, that it's like, okay, when are we taking time for ourselves? When are we stepping back? And so also scheduling in those times for, hey, I'm going to take a 20-minute break, or I'm going to take a half an hour break, and I'm going to
Mhm.
do yoga. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to go take a walk, or just whatever it is, something to just help you get that reset as well. And I think that's a huge part of planning and organizing your year and setting yourself up for success, because those moments of overwhelm where you're just, I don't know what I'm doing, that's where you need to step away
Mhm.
and say, okay, I'm going to take 20 minutes. I'm going to just sit with my thoughts. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to walk, whatever that outlet is for you. It's different for everybody, right? So figuring out what your thing is will be super helpful too, to kind of give you that mental reset and then come back at it with fresh eyes.
Mhm. Right. We talk about clutter. It's almost like getting the clutter out of your head,
Mental clutter.
or
Yeah.
mental clutter.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. I like that idea of scheduling in breaks, coming up just in general. Like we talked about planners. That's a great tool. Making sure that you're establishing when deadlines might be, but scheduling in time for yourself. So establish a very consistent schedule and routine. That's so helpful when you're trying to get organized and planning out your week, planning out your year. Come up with a schedule. Honestly, this is a huge thing for students who are doing online learning.
Mhm.
because you're coming from potentially, if you haven't done this before, you're coming from something that is so structured, right? Your school day, you get there first thing in the morning, you got your homeroom or whatever, however your school is set up, you move through each of your courses on a schedule with a bell that rings to tell you when you need to go to the next thing. And whether or not you're done with what you were working on, it's time to pack up your stuff and go to the next class. Like, you
Mhm.
are on a strict schedule and you don't get to choose it. Like, it's being chosen for you. You just show up and you follow the schedule, you follow the routine. But because that routine is in place, it's something that you can count on and rely on. And we tend to function well in that situation because you know exactly what to expect. So you
Mhm.
can plan for it and you can adjust your day around it. And the beauty of online school is you get to choose that.
Yeah.
You have control over it. But the key is still setting it. Don't just
Consistency.
go without a routine because you can. Like, yes, you're at home, there's no bell that's ringing, there's nobody telling you when you need to start on your next class. But if you don't identify what that looks like yourself, that's going to be really tough because I feel like as human beings, we're kind of creatures of habit and we just thrive on having some sort of structure. Most of us, there might be some creatives out there who are like, away
I
with
want the
all the
flow.
structure, and that's fine. Like, if that's you and you thrive on that and you work well with that, great. But most of us are coming from that situation where we had that structure in place and now we're going into a place where it doesn't exist unless you create it. So that's
Yeah.
key.
It is. Well, and that's, routine is something that we're introduced to in early childhood. Because, like you said, as humans, we like routine, we like consistency, like boundaries, rules, like that's kind of how we operate. And that's like that provides safety and security for, young kids
Mhm.
as they're developing. And so, as an adult, we even can find it comforting because that's what we've been taught. And that's kind of the pattern. And so, I love this idea of, yeah, even though you're at home, you can set your own schedule, and yeah, but it does need to have a routine. So I like the idea of even just, hey, set your timer for an hour. And then once that hour is up, okay, I'm done with math. Now I'm shifting my focus to this. Or if you're the type that does better with, hey, one day I'm going to focus on math for 2 hours. And then the next day I'll focus on English for 2 hours,
Mm.
or, however you operate best. And I think we've talked about this before, but just identifying also like when you're most productive, right? Some people are more productive first thing, bright and early in the morning. Hey, I'm going to focus on this. I know that I get better work done. So that's when I'm going to focus on the hard things because I know I'll have the better mental capacity to handle it when I first wake up. Or I get an energy kick in the afternoon. And so, hey, I'm going to focus on my class then because I know that I can accomplish things better then. Right. And so it's also kind of identifying your rhythms, your energies, when you're performing best. And then that's when you can say, okay, this is my hardest class. So I'm going to focus on that when my mental acuity is its sharpest, because then I know that I'll have the capacity to do it. Whereas if I wait till the end of the day when my brain is just done, then obviously I'm not going to absorb that information. And then I'll be more frustrated and I'll hate math even more, or I'll hate English even more, or whatever that class is for you, right? We all have that one class that's like, this is not my strength, right? For me, it was math. That's why I use math as the example. But yeah, you just got to find what works for you. And I think in establishing that routine, again, building in the breaks. Oh, hey, I usually eat lunch at 11:30 or noon. Like that's when I'm going to eat lunch. That's when I'm going to take a break and actually take a break. I know in today's society, it's super tempting for all of us. Oh, hey, it's a lunch break. I'm going to go grab some food and come right back to my desk. That's not really a break. You're not giving yourself that break. I've been guilty of that for years. I'll just work through lunch. I'll go warm up something and then have it right there. And I'm still answering emails and then I'll take a bite. That's not taking care of yourself either, right? You need to physically separate, set those boundaries, set that space, and have a schedule and a routine. So for those that are doing online school from home, we'd love to hear from you. Like what
Mhm.
works for you? What things have you
Totally.
found to be effective? Because we're all learning this together. We're all learning different ways and implementing new ideas and trying all the things to see what works. And that's really kind of what it is just testing it. and seeing what's
Mhm.
going to stick and what doesn't work.
100%. And one thing that you said, just like about every student has kind of a different schedule, or even adults in the workforce, right? Like in an office type setting, is you come up with different ideas on what works for you. And I know Angeli and I have tried something called task batching, or like chunking our time. So like when we hold meetings, like it's focused on one specific thing. So we're not jumping around to different topics. Like we talked about um, a while back, is just how your brain has to shift and like get into a different space when you're changing between tasks. So sometimes multitasking or doing too many different types of things in a small amount of time actually takes more brain power and energy to be able to switch back and forth. So some students might find that they create almost like a block schedule for themselves.
Yeah.
Like that's the cool thing, is you get to choose, and it's probably going to be a little bit of trial and error. I tell a lot of students that first start with our program is like, you know what, it might take a few weeks before you find something that works for you. And we encourage you to try as many different schedules and things as you can to say like, okay, what works? Where am I most productive? What schedule do I work best in the morning, afternoon? You get to pick, but the point is pick something,
Yeah.
set your routine, stick with it, and then adjust it if you need to. So
Yeah, for sure. And the cool thing about, all the resources and things that we have access to now, I look back on my high school years, even like early elementary, I was writing book reports from an encyclopedia. Now we have the internet and you can just Google everything, and everything's just accessible at your fingertips, right? And so take advantage of that, right?
Oh,
There's so many cool digital tools that you can use to like track your time or set a schedule, or you have a calendar on your Gmail or your
oh gosh, I live and die by my Google Calendar.
yeah, like
Like
use
that's
that. Yeah.
Todoist is like one checklist app that I started using. Um we use Monday here. Our project management team at Mountain Point uses Monday. So there's so many tools. A
Yeah.
lot at your disposal. Try
Cool.
different ones. We want to know what works for you too, because we're always looking for new cool tools to keep us moving
Yeah.
forward and organized as well.
Yeah. And if you're the type that likes, like I still have my digital calendar, but I also have my hardbound calendar,
Mm.
because I'm like, I like that visual reminder. And back to what we've talked about before, writing it down helps it stick in your memory a little bit better. Like, oh yeah, I have this appointment, or oh yeah, this is when I've scheduled time for my math class, or this is when I have a meeting at work. It just helps you kind of visually also have that. And then again, the muscle memory of writing it down, right? Recalling it. And so, yeah, find what works for you. It really is, like we said, the sky's the limit. There's so many cool tools out there, buy a planner, all the things. And then I think as you're doing this, the key to remember too is that you want to create a sustainable pace. Like you don't want to just burn yourself out. Like, oh, I'm going to schedule all the things and do all the things. No, like if you need breaks, take those breaks, because if you're going to just keep spinning your wheels, that's not sustainable. And then you're going to burn out, and then you're just more likely to say, well, forget this, right? So you want to make sure that it's sustainable and that you can break all those goals down into smaller manageable goals. So kind of speaking back to what Sarah mentioned about task batching, is okay, this is our main, this is my big goal. What can I do daily to get there? And then maybe, Mondays you focus on this part of your goal. Wednesdays you do this part of your goal. And you can literally just kind of break it down into smaller manageable goals. And then you want to be realistic about what you can accomplish. If your goal is to, hey, I'm going to run a marathon, and you've never run before, don't set that goal for, hey, 2 months from now, I'm going to be running a marathon. It needs to be realistic is what I'm saying. And if that's all you're doing, great. Maybe you could do that in 2 months, but take into account, work, school, family responsibilities. Like there's so many other things. So just make it realistic.
We have a whole podcast on goal setting, an episode. So if you haven't listened to that one yet and you want to know more about some goal setting techniques,
yeah,
listen to that one.
yeah, for sure. And then avoid the procrastination. I know for me, I have so many reminders on my phone that like every day. So for instance, like I have a goal of writing a book, right? And every night I have a reminder that goes off that's like, hey, look at your book, fix your big bibliography, do chapter edits, do all the things. And I'm like, half the time I'm just checking like, oh yeah, it's done. And I haven't actually done it. Right. And so so to me, that's procrastination. And so it's like, hey, setting that space too for your goals. So you've got to take the time to also give yourself that space for those goals. And so instead of just, oh, hey, I have a goal to publish a book by, 2022. Oh, well, hey, we're at the end of 2022. I procrastinated, right? So like, that's my point. You have to kind of take it. And if you're setting that, it's like you write it down, it's a plan. It's kind of like a commitment to yourself, right? If it's on your calendar, if you've written it down, if it's in your reminders, your to-do list, those are like commitments to yourself. And then you're kind of essentially subconsciously letting yourself down when you're not actually doing those things, right? And so that's why procrastination, I think, is such a like double-edged sword, because it's like, oh, well, it's fine. Like I'll get to it one day, right? Or, oh, hey, I'll take this test at some point. But if we have those goals and we're holding ourselves accountable, then that's huge. And I think that ties into kind of the last point that we want to talk about, which is developing a support system, having that accountability buddy, if you will, because obviously I need an accountability buddy for my book writing, because I just checked the box and I haven't actually done it. So I told my husband, I said, hey, you need to check in with me nightly and ask me, have you done anything today? And if I haven't, then I'll be like, no, then I'm going to do it right now. Right. And so finding that accountability piece is huge with a support system.
That's a lifesaver, like surrounding yourself with people who want to see you succeed and do well. Man, that's such an underrated piece to the whole puzzle.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, like, this is the beginning of the year, like setting these goals, and how many people set these New Year's resolutions. These goals, it doesn't have to be at the new year, like you said in the beginning, like so cliche, right? Like beginning of a new year and we set these new goals for ourselves, but it does feel like a great time to do the things that we've been wanting to do. And but man, you like, they joke about that, like even at the gym, like you go to the gym and first 3 weeks all the treadmills are crowded. The regulars are so mad at all the New Year's resolution people, because they're like, man, they're making our gym so crowded. They're only going to be here for a few weeks. So don't let that be you. Like if you're going to set a goal, if you're going to set a resolution to be more organized this year or whatever it is, just follow through with it. And that starts with finding people to support you and who are going to keep you accountable, and telling other people about your goals. Because if somebody else knows about it, then you're like, well, okay, I told somebody, like, you don't want to go back on that now. So definitely find people that you can rely on. And like Angeli said, even if it's just somebody that can ask you about it, even if they don't know much about your goal or can't help you with any part of it other than just saying, hey, what's your current progress on it? Are you still working toward that goal? That's huge.
Yeah. Because then it keeps it at the forefront of your mind, right? And then you're keeping those promises to yourself. Oh, hey, I have this goal, I have this dream. And it's so easy to get lost in the day-to-day. Like, obviously, that's why I just, oh yeah, did it. Because it's that I don't want this reminder to be staring at me, but I also don't have the time to do this right now. Right. But at the same time, I'm like, I look back and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of like disappointed in myself that I didn't like keep that as space for myself, And so don't be that person. Set those goals. If you have those dreams, it's going to take work. It's going to take time. And as you're planning and organizing, set the space for that. If when you want to work on your goals is, hey, 6 p.m. every day, I'm going to do this, then don't leave her on that. Say if a friend wants to meet up, say, well, I'm busy from 6 to 7. I can meet up after that. Keep those appointments to yourself. Keep those things important and kind of protect that space.
And one thing that I think is worth mentioning that is a helpful way of looking at it, if you struggle with that, is to think of whatever the task is at hand, break it down into the smallest possible next step. So for you, you know, if you just have on your planner, like work on book,
Mhm.
right? Like that, when you see that on your list, like come up or on your to-do list or your reminder, like, oh, it just might feel like, oh, like that's so big. But
Mhm.
like, what is the literal next, very next tiny step that you can do?
Mhm.
And make sure you have that outlined. That way, when it pops up on your to-do list, like, oh, okay, all I have to do is research this little thing or take notes on this particular part or, you know, like keep it real small so that you have an actual actionable
Mhm.
next step. Because when it comes time to doing something, if you just are looking at that big picture, you might just, "Oh, okay, next thing, you know, like I'll do that later because it feels too big." So for me,
You know, it's
that's something that
funny.
really helps.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's funny you say that because my reminder has been updated in my phone to like work
Yes.
on bibliography, you
Yay.
know, like yeah, so like I know that I have these things and then it's okay. Do yeah, do, 5 chapter edits or do, 2 bibliography entries or whatever, so yeah, more specific, going
Yeah.
back to, yeah, the goal setting episode we talked about already.
Yes.
Smart goals, making it, attainable. So yeah, but I mean, my point in bringing that up was just, yeah, like hold yourself accountable too. Like it's a goal is kind of like a promise you're making to yourself. And are you keeping those little promises along the way that are going to help you achieve that goal?
Mhm.
Like if you approach it that way and you're kind of holding yourself accountable and then finding somebody else to hold you accountable, it will make it a little more like, okay, like I got to do this. I've said
Totally.
I'm going to do this, right?
Yeah.
Don't make me a liar type of
Yeah.
thing.
100%. The other thing for students too that I think ties into this, it's not necessarily related to as much about the accountability, but more just with that general support system is when it comes to online schooling, you can feel like maybe you're just out there on your own if you don't take advantage of that network that's available to you. And at least at Mountain Point Academy, I know we try to do everything we can to make students feel like they're part of our community and they have a mentor and they have somebody that they can reach out to for help. So rely on that support system. Ask for help when you need it. Don't wait until you're just completely drowning or in over your head. You have a support system.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it. Use it. We're here to help. You have, you know, family members, friends. You could find local study groups if that you feel like that would be helpful. Um, but really the big thing is just ask, reach out to somebody if you need help with anything, if you're feeling overwhelmed. Don't wait. Don't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, for sure. And if you know somebody in your network of friends that is really awesome at planning and organizing, reach out to them and say, "Hey, can you help me get a little organized?" And then that will help you kind of manage, the chaos and the how do I do all the things in all the time that I have? And so that's a great tool as well. So yeah, anyway, let us know in the comments, what you have found has worked for you for planning and organizing and just staying on track with your own goals and just making your lives, set up for success. So we'd love to hear any cool tools you have or techniques that you've found that have been successful. We're always looking to share more resources with our students. So let us know. Let us know what works for you and see how we can test it in our own lives to just be more effective at all the things.
Thanks guys for listening and we'll catch you next week.